I can barely see through this. How the heck was my engine getting gas at the idle speed? Imagine coming in for a landing and pulling your power back and your engine peter out on you because it's not getting any gas. This is an 08 Sport Cruiser. Now, I think the carbs were rebuilt fairly recently, but it's not a big deal to check the idle jets. And it's probably something that you should do when you have a little time on your hands and you're just thinking about what kind of maintenance should you be doing that you're not thinking of. Well, this might be one of those little projects. So I'm going to tie into this thing and pull those idle jets, and let's take a look and see what condition they're in. Okay, so we've got the cowling pulled, and here we're looking at the carburetor on the left side. Now, we're first going to have to remove this bowl, and this gives an opportunity to poke our nose and see if there's any debris in the bowl, obviously. But we're not going to be able to get to the idle jet screw because it's located directly on the bottom and in the center. Can't remember if it's the forward or back side, but we'll see in a minute. And it's in a well that we need a certain type screwdriver for. I'll point that out in a minute. So what we're going to wind up having to do here is remove this spring, loosen up these clamps here, and rotate this carburetor over so it can expose the bottom of the carburetor to let us get at that screw. Now, I can't hold a cell phone and do all this work because I don't have three hands. So I'll just take intermittent shots and try to bring you along as I go through this. Okay, so what I've done is I've loosened the two boot clamps, and I've rotated the carburetor a little bit internally, exposing the bottom. You just take this little clamp, unspring it from the bowl, and the bowl will come off. You're going to have to push down on this plate here on your Sport Cruiser if that's what you have. To give enough room to get this thing to come off squarely. And then you can inspect it. And I'll show you something that's interesting. You see that spot that's right there in the center of your screen. That was there when I bought this airplane. It was a little corrosion spot that we cleaned up as best as we could, and then I just keep an eye on it, and there's no growth. But you can see it's otherwise pristine and there's nothing in it. If you want to get carried away, there is a way to dry off the floats, let them sit for a few minutes, and then weigh them. And I think they have to weigh 75 grams or less. But go ahead and look that up if you're going to be questioning your floats and whether it's time to replace them or not. Anyway, mine look good. I've just replaced my floats 2 years ago. I'm going to call them good, but the bowl otherwise looks pristine aside from that corrosion spot. So let's take a look next at where that idle screw is. Okay, I think I found a suitable screwdriver. The important part is that this neck here will fit within the width of this channel, which is where the idle screw jet is located. And to remove it, let me switch my hands here. See if I can get this unscrewed. All right. This is exceptionally difficult with only two arms, two hands. So let's, oh here, it just came out. There it is. So here's what it's going to look like. That's it. That's the jet that sets your idle. And the way you see it, it's going to be a very fine hole. Let me see if this works. I don't know if this is going to work for me with the video. Let me see what my bald eye says. Holy mackerel. I can barely see through this. How the heck was my engine getting gas at the idle speed? Imagine coming in for a landing and pulling your power back and your engine peter out on you because it's not getting any gas. All right, so the best way, I'm going to show you next the best way I found for cleaning these, because it's such a small orifice in there. So let's, I'll show you that next. Oh my gosh, it took me 30 minutes to find a wire brush here in the hangar. We got to do some serious reorganization here in this hangar when the weather warms up. Okay, so here's what's going to work best. That orifice in that jet is so small that even a small piece of safety wire is going to be too big of a diameter to get through there. So what you want to use is just a bristle, one bristle off of a wire brush, and there it is sitting right there. I'm going to pull that off with the pliers, and then I'm going to go ahead and run that bristle through the opening of that jet to see if I can open it up. Okay, hang on. Okay, here you can get a better bird's eye view of what that opening looks like now that it's been cleaned out. That's much better than it was before. Easy thing to check, easy thing to clean and get taken care of and put back in, and then it's peace of mind that you're getting all the gas that you need when the engine's at idle. Okay, let's put this thing back in and do the other side. Yeah, you should be able to see this pretty good. This is a strand that I pulled out of this wire brush of stiff wire that is a really good diameter for cleaning out this jet. So this is what I tend to use. So here you can see that that strand of wire kind of goes through it. And I'll just run that in and out a few times just to clean up that hole, and then we're going to give it a good squirt and then return to service. Reinstall. Okay, so now we're going to do the right side carburetor, and I can tell you right off the bat we're going to have an issue. We're not going to be able to rotate the carburetor over to expose the tray, or the bowl rather, to get at that screw, because this valve housing is going to hit your ignition boxes. So we're only going to get, if anything, just a minor twist out of the carb. So I'm going to start by taking off the capture plate here, and then we're going to see what it's going to be like to get at it from this. This side is going to be a much harder side to get that idle screw out. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so we've got the spill plate removed and tucked away out of the way, and then I removed this screw up here, or the spring rather, off of this fitting forward on the crossover tube. And then I loosen up both of these boot screws. So that should loosen up the carburetor. Now you're going to see that's about all you get. I just got barely a little twist out of it, but that's good enough. I'll take it. The other thing I've gone ahead and done is I've removed the bowl here. And in fact, I just set it down. Let's take it out and we'll inspect it with the fuel outside and let you see. Get this in the sunlight. Anyway, there is nothing in there. It is clean as a whistle, and there might be a reason for that. Let me spill this out. Looks clean as a bell, no debris of any kind. So that's a good positive sign. One of the reasons I do that is because I use a Mr. Funnel, and these Mr. Funnels are so good at capturing debris, it even filters water out from your tank. So I can use anybody's gas jug. If I run it through the funnel here, the only thing that's coming out the other end is 100% pure gasoline going into my fuel tank. So it sort of pre-filters everything. And you notice I got this little makeshift basket that I made. I think my wife got it at Hobby Lobby. I cut the bottom out of it, and I just put a little sort of a plastic or a rubber seal around it so it won't scratch my paint job. And it's used as a support for when I fuel up the airplane. So I can put the fuel in like this. And you can see I've got it supported now, and then I can use two hands to dump a 5-gallon tank, and it will drink as fast as I can pour that 5 gallons into this funnel. it'll take it in and drop it into the tank. And then you can stop periodically and check your fuel level, and then go back and continue to top off. So there's another little tip that I use on my fuel, and that gives you a reason why the carb bowls should be clean as a whistle, as we expect them to be. Okay, let's pull that jet out, and we'll take a look at the jet on the right side. And since we're on the subject of carburetor bowls, this is a photograph of debris that came out of a carburetor bowl of a Rotax 912 18 hours after the 5-year rubber replacement was performed on the aircraft. And it brings up a good question. If it ain't broke, should we be fixing it? And here's another good point to ponder. The debris you see here came from the new fuel lines someplace between the gascolator and the carburetors. Therefore, if you have the 5-year hose replacement performed on your aircraft, I would be checking those carburetor bowls every 2-3 hours for the first 25 hours after that maintenance had been performed, just to be looking for this indication. What I wound up doing here, because I couldn't rotate the carburetor enough to get the screwdriver to go in directly into that hole to unscrew the jet, the air box behind here is a little bit loose, and it allowed me to pull the front of the carb out of the boot, and then I could bring it out laterally a little bit, and then that gave me plenty of room to get the screwdriver in there to get the jet out. So the right side carb is going to be just a little bit more work, but it's really not a big deal. And I noticed that this one, you can see there is a hole in there, and it's a little bit better than the left side was, but it still doesn't look like it's fully opened. But hey, let's run a piece of wire through there and we'll compare and contrast. I'll be right back in a second. Okay, I've got this one cleaned out. There's a comparison. And yeah, I do think that there was some blockage that was going on here. A little cholesterol in the carburetors. So we got that cleaned out. This jet's ready to go back in, and then we'll get this carburetor reinstalled. And that takes care of the idle jet inspection. I'll bet you this procedure, if you have everything ready to go, less than an hour. It's pretty simple, straightforward. You know, you're just going to have a little bit more of an issue. You're going to have to pull your carb on the right side, but not a big deal. The left one went very smoothly. Right one, just a little bit more work, but hey, it's worth it. Just for peace of mind, knowing that you got a good hole in there. Look at that. It's way better than what it was before. Okay, let's get this thing in there. And okay, I've got it all put back together. That's the reinstall. Spring is on. The boot clamps have been retightened. The carb is in the vertical position. And I've got the gas catch drainage pan in place here along with the bowl. Everything's all set. This is returned to service. And rest assured, it's going to idle just beautifully now that I know that those idle jets were nasty and needed a little cleaning. So if this was done about 4 years ago, imagine what your idle jets might look like. You could just start with at least this left side carb because it's very easy to get to. Pop it out and inspect, and if it is not pristine, clean it out with a wire brush bristle and get it reinstalled again, and then go after and do the other side. A little more involved, but not a big deal. It takes about an hour. Okay, hopefully this gets you thinking and gives you something to do when you're hanging out at your hangar on a rainy day. See you guys. And one other thing I wanted to mention is these moving blankets from Harbor Freight are what, 10 bucks? They are wonderful. Put a double layer down on your wing, and then you can set your tools down or your items or whatever. Whenever you're working and prevent scratches, you should have at least two moving blankets, one for each wing, for when you're doing maintenance on your aircraft. Just another little tip that's helpful.